Hey guys and gals of the internet land, Jack Spirko here with another video. As I said, I'm going to be doing a couple or three political videos this week. I know some of you among my subscriber base are special children who not only do not subscribe to me for politics, but you're incapable of self-regulation and simply not watching or paying attention to videos that are about politics on your own free will and volition and feel the need to complain and bitch whenever I do a political video. If you do that, again, I will ban you. There seems to be less and less of those people as they get the ban. Remember, if you self-regulate, people won't have to regulate you. Anyway, on that note, we're going to be talking about the Ass Clown Circus 2020. If you're new to me and you're like, what the hell's the Ass Clown Circus? You should have been able to figure that out. Yes, the election! Election 2020. Ass Clown Circus 2020 is in full swing. And I predict, thinking deeply into the future with my powers of ESP, Donald Trump will retain the presidency and be your president, whether you like it or not, for the next 4 years. Now, I want to be clear as I do this video on 10 reasons, logical reasons, not reasons from my actual fake ESP, that Donald Trump will win re-election. I'm not Team Trump, nor am I Team Biden. I am simply like the weatherman here, looking out at the radar and out at the ocean and saying that storm is likely to make landfall here. That's it. All right, and so I'm going to give you some things that are pretty positive about Trump during this video, so you might take that as ranting and raving and cheering it on or whatever. If you're looking for somebody to subscribe to that picks a side of the dichotomy and then rails on it, I'm not your guy. I don't do that. I don't vote. I won't be voting this time. I didn't vote last time, and I won't vote the next time. This is not the most important of my election of my lifetime, no matter whether the TV tells me that or not. And I will make a prediction. The next election will also be the most important election of your lifetime. Okay, with that out of the way, 10 reasons I predict Donald Trump will remain president of the United States after this election. Understand, because I keep hearing, but I know these people, all they do is listen to NBC. I understand that. The majority of people that vote, I don't care about you. Joe Biden doesn't care about you, and Donald Trump doesn't care about you. Nobody that's actually in the business of picking political outcomes cares about you. You're a known quantity. If you always vote, and you always vote on one side or the other, no one cares. And then the next thing is there's what's called 20% of the electorate is what they call the mushy middle. That number is largely inflated because the majority of those people make their decisions in the summer. They've already made their decisions. They're not up for play. It's only 2 to 4% of people that vote who in the, kind of the end stages of an election are even up for grabs. We're throwing the polls out here. That doesn't matter. But if I were Team Biden, and I mean I actually worked for Sleepy Creepy Joe and instead of the Orange Man, and I was on his campaign team, these 10 things would be 10 things I would worry about. And before I give them to you, if there were 1 or 2 or 3 of them, any 1, 2, or 3 of them, I wouldn't really worry. I would say Biden has this just due to malcontent over the pandemic. However, you can't look at things isolated. You have to look at their combined effects. So starting out, the law enforcement vote. Now, there's only about 600,000 full-time law enforcement officers in the United States, 600 to 700,000, depending on what statistics you look at. But there is a shitload of them that are also retired law enforcement. There's a shitload of their family, and there's a huge number of mega law enforcement supporters. And it's hard for you to believe this, but a large contingent of those people were actually traditionally lock-stock Democrats. When you lose any one of these demographics, in addition to that 2 to 4% that's in play, it hurts. You either have them disenfranchised where they're not happy with you so they don't show up. That hurts. It costs you 1 vote. Or you anger them enough that they walk across the aisle and they vote for the other side. That technically costs you 2 votes because you lost 1 and they gained 1. It's a net swing of 2 when that traditional person, again, it's not one person coming out of the middle or one person that's a first-time voter. It is a person that traditionally would always vote for you voting for the opponent. It hurts. It's a 2-point swing, effectively. All right. Now, with that in mind, in the law enforcement vote, there is not a law enforcement entity that has endorsed Joe Biden. 2 places that would be good examples of that never endorsed anybody. They tried to, remain neutral, but they were heavily weighted to Democrats. would be Chicago PD and NYPD, right? And I don't think it's going to swing either Illinois or New York for Trump. I don't. But that's indicative of a larger field. Both of those police departments have endorsed Donald Trump for president. If you would have told me a year ago, Chicago PD and NYPD will endorse Donald Trump, I would have thought you were smoking crack. And I would have to apologize to you for thinking that now. The law enforcement vote is going to have a massive swing of their traditional Democrat votes over to Republican. And again, that vote is not just officers, it's their family, their friends, and people that are huge supporters of law enforcement. People in the anarcho community, we would call them bootlickers sometimes. Doesn't matter what you think about them, they're moving that way. Tiny little number of people in total, but it's a negative swing for the Democrats from a traditional lock, stock, I support you. Next, along with this, but much larger, the generalized union vote. The union vote has had a huge swing. Now, the union, that has been Democrat territory, even in Republican states. So, when Democrats came to Texas to lose, they would get the union vote even in a place like Texas. Right now, if you look it up, you will find articles where union presidents who have unions that have still endorsed the Democrat, endorsed Biden in this case, are like, well, I understand. Like, our members are swinging, like, internal polls tell us they're swinging Republican heavily this time around. Yeah, because Trump's policies have been very pro-union policies. You know, like, tariffs, that's a pro-union policy. Protectionist policies are pro-union policies. Doesn't matter if I agree with them or not. If I'm a union member who's like, union all the way, his policies, canceling TPP, pro-union. Buy America, pro-union. He's saying a lot of things union people like to hear, and he's doing a lot of things that people in the unions have always been told couldn't be done, but should be done. Because of that, you're getting a significant segment of that. Again, not enough to swing the whole election, but now we're adding it to the law enforcement vote. Now the black vote. Now, I don't think like 80% of black people are going to vote Trump or anything like that. It's not that big. But the African American community has traditionally been the property, is the way they've looked at it, of Democrats, which is very condescending, but it's the way they've looked at it. And the numbers have bared out that there was a reason for them to be that condescending. Traditionally, only between 8 and 12% of the African American vote would go Republican in any given election. Even with very popular Republicans, when Republicans won, you're looking at 12% of the black vote about being the top end. Guess what? It's much bigger now. That's probably, of all the kind of the traditional Democrat camps, the one with the largest number of defections. And then when Sleepy Joe comes out and says, you ain't black if you don't vote for me, oh, that's a bigger faux pas than I'm going to close down the oil industry during the debate. Because let me tell you something you don't do as a white dude. You don't go telling a black dude what they need to be doing because they're black as a white dude. That is a bad idea. No black person wants to hear from a white dude what they need to be doing. And I don't blame them either. And I'll tell you what, you do that to a black dude, you're getting blown off. You do that to a black woman as a white dude, the next thing you're probably doing is reaching back behind you to peel your face off the wall. There is on top of the already movement toward Trump out of that community, that was a point where maybe the person's not going to vote Trump, but they're like, screw him, I'm not voting for him. They'll stay home. It doesn't mean it doesn't have to be a massive majority. Again, 1 or 2 points peeled off of a traditional demographic, added to these other ones, hurts. It hurts. And Trump has done great things for African Americans as a president. Maybe not as grandiose as he claims. The best since Abraham Lincoln. Maybe even better. But no, that's all stupid, right? He should shut up. By the way, my next video is going to be 10 mistakes Trump's made that might cost him the election. Even though I think he's going to win, right? So just so you understand that, so you don't get too cocky here if you're on Team Trump. But man, opportunity zones, prison reform, criminal justice reform, funding historically black. I mean, there's a record there of doing things that everybody talked about and didn't do. Persuadable people pay attention to those things. Again, the people firmly entrenched. Well, if you killed Biden and Trump and Pence and Harris and you put in a frog and a lizard, they would vote based on the R or the D. Not in play. Do not care what you think. You do not matter. You are irrelevant. You are white noise in the background. people that pay attention inside these demographics pay attention to things like this. Biden has lost a significant portion of the black vote, specifically in what we call battleground states. Next, the Hispanic vote. It's almost the same. I don't want to go too long on this, but there is a massive movement of Hispanics for Trump. In my adult life, and I go back long enough that I can remember, I go back further, but where I paid attention old enough to remember Gerald Ford. That's how far I go back with presidents. I have never in my life seen a place where a Republican presidential candidate or president had movements of blacks for and Hispanics for. It has never existed in history. It is a big deal being ignored and placated by the media as not being real because they can't accept it in their woke-ass world that it's a real thing. It's a real thing. Biden has lost a significant amount of support in the Hispanic community. You can say whatever you want about immigration. Obama was the deporter in chief. It doesn't buy as much as you think it does. Stop listening to the TV set. Next up, the Jewish vote. The Jewish vote has been considered something that's just taken for granted by Democrats. You have a president who has now had 3 Arabic countries in 1/4 of a calendar year recognize Israel's right to exist. This won't take every lifelong Jewish person who's voted Democrat and make them vote Republican, but it will peel away another 1 or 2 points of that demographic at least. Next up, the military vote. If you served in the military under Barack Obama and you served in the military under Donald Trump, what I'm told by my fellow soldiers, I'm a former soldier from a long time back, but those who are still serving, who have just gotten out, the difference in how well equipped you are and how well supported you feel is night and day. It has been traditionally thought that the military was heavily voting Republican. It ain't as much as you think. And military families, etc., it ain't as much as you think. It always went majority Republican, but it was a huge portion of that demographic that voted Democrat, especially in kind of the bureaucratic ranks and things like that. The military swing is real as well. I don't think it's as impactful as the black, the Hispanic, or the Jewish, because those were always traditionally Democrat, so losing from there hurts more. But man, the military vote is hugely for Trump. Hugely for Trump, including a piece of it that was traditionally Democrat. That matters because it was traditionally Democrat. Next up, you might not believe this either because of all the censorship and all, but the damage from Laptop Gate is real. It really is. For those 2 to 4% of people in the middle that are being told, no, I can't. What do you mean I can't see this? That do any level of investigation whatsoever. And when you have Tony Babaluni or whatever's coming out saying, hey, this stuff's real. I was involved with it. We did it. It happened. The persuadable, because we only care about the persuadable. Some of you are so vapor locked in your head you can't understand this. We only care about that group of people. We peel some more people out of that group. Next up, all of Trump's dirty laundry is old news. They got nothing. They've been slandering the guy since before he was the Republican nominee. It's been nonstop for 3.5 years. It's old news. It doesn't matter. They could come out with a video today of Donald Trump beating orphans to death with baby seals, and people will be like, whatever. Anybody who already hasn't completely decided there's no way I can ever support Trump doesn't care anymore, even in the persuadable group. Right? They might choose Biden over Trump, but there's nothing left negative. It's over. You can't do this. And this is actually what makes the Trump campaign and the people behind this slow roll of the Laptop Gate material very intelligent. They started it just long enough from the election that it won't go away by the time of the election and wear off and like numb out on people. And they put it close, they put it close enough, but enough distance out that it has time to maturate and get around and be understood and be heard and be researched and things like that. And by the way, it's not done yet. As damning as everything that's come out is, some of the most damning stuff will probably come out this week, just so you know. Next up, anti-lockdown sentiment. This is something that's being, like everyone's like, Trump's, COVID's going to kill Trump. There's no doubt that if there was no COVID pandemic, we wouldn't even be discussing this. If I was doing this video right now, 10 reasons Trump would win, and there was no COVID pandemic, nobody would even watch it. They'd be like, well, no shit, stupid. Of course he's going to win. The way the economy was going, no president with the kind of economy we had a year ago has ever even had a close re-election. It wouldn't even be close. But with COVID, yeah, that's the only reason this thing's in play. Joe Biden was a surrender candidate. They were playing for the loss. They want riots and shit. They're still playing for the loss. They know the things I'm telling you are true. They know that's most likely that Sleepy Joe's going to lose. But there's also a contention. They're like, holy shit, we could win because COVID. Now, if you think about it, Biden got the nomination locked up largely before we saw the problems with COVID. So, and if you think what a terrible candidate the guy is, he was the left's Mitt Romney. We'll put somebody up that looks the part but can't win. We're playing for the loss. They were playing for 2024. They were playing for the 2022 midterms. And now they're like, shit, maybe we could win. But in the end, I'm telling you, he's a terrible, terrible candidate. He really is. And when you look at the lockdown, there is a huge number of people that are tired of the lockdowns. Even if they think Trump didn't do the best job of COVID, they don't want, like, they're like, okay, look, this doesn't kill everybody like we thought it did. This is stupid. We need to go back to our lives. There's tons of scared Karens. I understand. They're in that group. They're going to vote that. No one cares. There is a huge contingent of people that would traditionally vote Democrats about, I don't want these lockdowns anymore. There's people that, they're ready to ride Whitmer out of town on a rail, for instance, up there. That's now that stays in play largely because of anti-lockdown sentiment. People that are like, wait, I can go to Walmart and buy groceries, but I can't buy a garden hose. Even Democrats are like, wait a minute, this is not okay. How many of these people own restaurants, etc., that were traditionally Democrat that are anti-lockdowners now? There you go. And again, pull another point out of there. Pull a half a point. Pull a quarter point off of any one of these. And it starts to really hurt the Biden campaign. Next up, a massive enthusiasm gap. Again, I go back to President Ford. I remember the Ford-Carter election. That's what an old fart I am. That's how much gray's in this beard. I have never seen a presidential candidate without enthusiasm win an election. Joe Biden has no enthusiasm. There was a rally today, a Biden rally. Children with lemonade stands get bigger turnouts, and no, you can't just blame COVID. It is pathetic. Now, if you're voting Team Orange Man, don't get too cocky here. That doesn't mean there aren't tens of millions of people that are going to vote for Creepy Sleepy Joe. Because they will. Because they're voting against Trump. But they're not excited about Biden. They're not. And no one's excited about Harris. She couldn't get 2% of the vote in her own primary. She was a terrible choice for VP. I could make that a bonus one. Biden picked a shitty VP candidate. Seriously, it really looks like a surrender party candidacy. But, man, I'm telling you, there is no enthusiasm for Biden. And so what you're trying to do is win on we hate Trump. But when any voter I've seen in any interview pressed on Biden says, well, he's not my ideal candidate, it sounds exactly like Republicans talking about John McCain and Mitt Romney. It was never going to happen because they had no enthusiasm, no matter how much anti-Obama rhetoric that was out there and how much people believed it. Didn't matter. All right, next up. The fake news argument that propelled Trump to the presidency in 2016 is stronger than it ever was, and it's their own damn fault. Their refusal to cover Laptop Gate is a bigger story than the laptop itself. There isn't a person out there that in an intellectually honest moment won't tell you the media is in the tank for Biden. Again, if you are a leftist, you're like, I don't care, it should be that way because obviously Trump sucks. And if you're pro-Trump, you're maddened by this, but you're going to vote Trump and that other person's going to vote Biden. We're only talking about that little bitty group in the middle. And if they were persuaded to swing to Trump in 2016, this argument is more powerful than it has ever been in history. CNN, MSNBC, etc., you are fake news is the most brilliant thing that the Orange Man has ever said. Next up, the hidden Democrat vote. That is number 12, the final reason. What? The hidden Democrat vote. You keep hearing about this shy Trump voter, why the polls are wrong. That there's a certain number of conservatives out there that when the pollster calls will just be like, who are you going to vote for? I better say Biden. No. No. The reason it's hard to get an accurate poll count isn't because Republicans lie. It's because they tell pollsters to go fuck off. That's why. Can I ask you some questions about the election? No, go screw. You have to make at least 10 effective contacts. This is from the pollsters themselves. You have to talk to at least 10 Republicans that actually answer the phone and understand what you're asking to get one to answer. That's why they oversample Democrats, because Democrats are more naturally compliant people, and they're easier to get to give you an answer. Just think about the mindset, Democrat, Republican. Who's more compliant with authority figures? And when you're like a 68-year-old man in the Midwest who's done everything by the book your whole life, and some official person calls you on the phone for a poll, it's official, right? There's this authority complex, especially with older voters. We all have parents and grandparents that we can think of that have this authority complex. So I'm not doing that. The doctor says you have to. Okay, that kind of mindset. Okay, now let's think about this. You're a Republican. You're going to be afraid to tell a pollster that you're going to vote for a Republican, even if it's Trump? Not likely. Now, you might tell them to F off, screw off, whatever, not answer the question. But I'll tell you, who's going to say Biden and then vote Trump are Democrats, especially in these battleground swing states. A huge number of them. A huge number of them. Especially, again, think about this older person, 68-year-old man, 72-year-old woman, whatever. They voted Democrat their whole life. Some person, some voice, calls them on the phone and says, hello, we are conducting a poll for the election 2020. Oh, crap. I better talk to him because Democrat mindset. But this person is open-minded and they have decided they're voting for Donald Trump. And then it comes down to the question. So who are you voting for this year? They sound like they're from the Democrat Party that you've been a member of your whole life. What if 5% of those people say Biden and they don't mean it? Then every poll in every battleground state from that one factor alone swings to Trump. Is that enough by itself, that one? I don't think so. I don't think it's that big in every battleground state. But when you add to it the law enforcement vote, and that's not just cops but those who support them, the general union swing, the black vote swing, the Hispanic swing, the Jewish swing, the military vote, the damage done by Laptop Gate that is real, even though they don't want to report on it, the fact that Trump's October surprise, this dirty laundry on Trump just doesn't work anymore. It's worn off. You did too much of it. You overplayed your hand. Anti-lockdown sentiment where people are just like, no, we can't do this anymore. People realize that. Even if they're pro-mask or whatever, like, we can't just stay locked down anymore. And that's all the Democrats have. It's going to be a dark winter. Let's lock down. No. I mean, the enthusiasm gap, people that'll just go, I know I can even do it by mail, but screw that. It's not there. The fake news, and then that hidden Democrat vote. What are my odds that Trump wins the election in spite of all these people saying that can't happen this year? 90%. I'm leaving a 10% chance for Sleepy Joe to steal the election. And steal might be the right word, but in the end, all it matters is in January of 2021, who gets sworn in. That's all that really matters in the end. But for those of you that have remained unconvinced by what I have to say because of the barrage of media telling you that this can't possibly happen again, I invite you to look down in the video notes to a video of about 12 minutes in length to what these same people told you in 2016. And I think we're all like, I don't need to watch that. Of course, everybody was wrong. The polls were... You've forgotten. People that have watched this video, I shared it recently on social media, people that watch this video will go, holy crap, I forgot how bad it was. You watch that video, and then you take into account what I've just told you, and I think you'll be like, you know what? He's probably right. And if that means you're going to have a mental shutdown when Donald Trump wins and scream in the streets or yell with your vagina or wear a pink pussy hat again or whatever, know this. The people like me in the world that actually believes in liberty and freedom and doesn't want to pick a master for you and doesn't want you picking a master for me, our only solace in this is your mental shutdowns. You're our only entertainment. This isn't entertaining for us. We really wish we didn't have to do this every 2 or 4 years. But those of you that are going to have mental shutdowns, that's one thing. But let me give you my final piece of advice. Stay away from the flashpoint cities around the election. The media has set this up. The media knows what I've told you today. The media knows it's most likely that everything they've done for Creepy Joe is going to be in vain. They know this. They want riots, and they're going to get them. I've said to get out of these flashpoint cities for years now, and I've ramped up my warnings this year. If you've seen my other videos, you know what I'm talking about. But if you haven't listened, if you still work and live in these cities, take a freaking vacation around the election. Stay out of these downtown areas. Anywhere that there's been demonstrations and damage and danger in the past, expect it again. It's going to be way worse than its peak this summer, this time around. They're playing for it. About the only thing that might save us is a massive cold front moving in and making protesting a little bit too cold to be convenient. Other than that, I expect it to be really, really bad. I expect it to rage all the way through the holidays into early next year. Be prepared. Keep your powder dry. Have your preps in line. Be able to defend yourself and stay the hell out of dangerous areas. Final piece of advice. When it comes to this type of thinking, you can sum it all up with this. Don't do stupid things in stupid places with stupid people. Be well, and I'll be back tomorrow to tell you why I could be wrong.